God provides for all birds, but the food never reaches them in the comfort of their nest. They go out there in search for the food. Only then do they get to experience the provisional grace of God. Unlike birds, many humans are yet to understand this law of nature. God cannot do for man what man must do for himself. Until we come to the understanding of this fundamental law of nature, our problems will continue to thrive and grow into bigger complexities than we can handle. Nana Kwame is my next door neighbor. I have known him for quite some time. 3 years ago, he shared with me his dream of wanting to study abroad right after school. It's been 2 years since, and so yesterday I asked him how his dream was faring. He told me that he's praying and fasting even harder. Then I asked, so in the last 2 years, has he applied for any scholarships or looked up any schools in the US or anywhere? His answer was no. And out of surprise, I asked, how does he expect to study abroad then? He looked at me, smiled, and said, he's a miracle-working God. Really? Barely 2 months ago, I met Philemon at one of our Tuesday services at church. We were engaged in a conversation for a while, and he told me then that for the past 12 months, he's been trying to secure a job at a reputable organization. So I asked him if he could send me his CV. He said he didn't have one. Just last week, we met again at church. There was no CV, and yet he was more hopeful and full of faith. Final year in senior high school. A very good friend of mine by name Hamza. Hamza was a very intelligent and charismatic young man. I admired him so much for his sense of spirituality and discipline towards the things of God. We shared a common goal, and that was to excel academically with the best of grades. Except that when it came to studying, Hamza would rather prefer to pray or sleep than join us. I got quite concerned, and so I asked him. Hamza looked at me, shook his head, and said, his God will favor him in these final examinations. It's been 7 years since, and I'm still yet to understand what he meant by that favor and why he is now entering university. Isn't it rather fascinating and amusing even to think that some people will choose to comfortably and earnestly wait on God to work out His miracle in their lives when they can actually work out these miracles themselves? I have brothers and sisters who quote holy scriptures of how God worked out miracles in times of old and how He can do the same for them in these times. Somehow, when these supposed miracles delay, they comfort themselves with more scriptures of how God's time is the best and how sometimes the princes of Persia and the heavenly forces can wrestle the answers to your prayers. The irony. I hate to be the one to break this to you, but while you are comforting yourself with prayers and waiting comfortably in your nest, there are people out there working out their heart to make their dreams come true. There are people your age, there are people your class, people your level who are working hard late at night with all they have just to make sure their dreams come true. There are others who are experimenting and failing and gathering all the experiences needed just so they can succeed better. Now, how do you sit in your nest, do nothing, and hope to get what they get? How? A good professor friend of mine once told me that Africa is where it is because a lot of Africans rely more on spiritual forces to fight their battles for them. By all means, you cannot take out the God factor. There is a greater force behind all of creation, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with praying. But here's the thing. You need to understand the relationship that exists between the provider and his children. The relationship that exists between God and man is not what we have made it to seem like. It's one of a partnership. And just like any partnership, the parties involved have a responsibility to play. And here in this case, God has already performed His part when He gave us life and gave us all the resources we need to play out our part. You need to understand this. So much depends on you as a person. And until you learn to accept responsibility, the future you so much desire to see may never happen. Remember this. You have faith in God, but don't lose faith in yourself because God believes in you too. You can win.